Hello and welcome. I am Carl, and this is my Blackbeard guide for the green Zoro matchup. The matchup can look pretty scary, but it's actually quite favored for us. So I'm gonna try and show you how to do that when both going first and second. First of all, just for a quick summary, in the broadest strokes, go first, leader ability starting at 3. You want to build up your Burgesses, clear the board as much as you can, set up blockers, and set up 1 to 2 vortexes to shut down his attacks. Next up, we have the leader ability. So Zoro isn't as dependent on plays as some other decks are, but he still has some strong things we want to avoid. He only has one searcher, well, one on-play searcher in the form of the 1-cost Perona. Because he only has one, it's not worth it for us to consider turning off on-plays on the first turn just to deny his searchers, because there's a very good chance he just doesn't have one at all. And he's not that reliant on it anyways, because he has activate main searchers. The first thing we're really paying attention to now is the 3-cost Mihawk. It lets him play a 4-cost, which is of course great, and since he has a 4-cost, I can play 2-cost. This leads to a disgusting 3-cost 9-don combo, which can doom our game if he gets it off cleanly, so it's something we need to keep in mind. He has the 4-cost Zoro that he wants to play with that. It gets 2 free Dawn on being played. It also restands itself constantly, so it's annoying even when we turn off the on play. But that extra 2 is something we would like to avoid. 5-cost Tashigi rests a 5-cost or even a 6-cost and gives 3 free Dawn, so it's basically a 2 Dawn 7000 body that rests a 6-cost. So this card is insane, and he will always play it if he can. He will play it even if without the on play. So this is basically the point 5 Dawn where you will always turn off on plays. Even in later stages, this is able to rest your bigger blockers like Kuzan. So just turn them off. Other things to keep in mind here are the 5-cost Cavendish. He gets 2 free Dawn when attacking and when on play, and the new 6-cost Law that gives him a free 5-cost. It does require him to bounce one of his 1-costs, but that's not necessarily even a downside. He's not really a problem for us at all, because by the time he would ever play him, we're already turning off on plays anyways. So the Law is just kind of a we're happy about it, basically. It's an addition that Zoro puts into his deck now that is useless against us. So generally, as a conclusion of that chain, we generally want to start turning off on plays at 3. And this is also why we would like to start at 1, so that we can turn off on plays starting at 4 and not right away in the first turn. Yeah, sometimes you can say, okay, I went second, he hasn't done any searchers. The chance that he has Mihawk and the Zoro and something to play is very, very small. So I'm just gonna, risk my luck. And you can do that, and usually you won't get punished. But if you do, it's extremely painful. So usually better to take the safe route and start turning off on plays, starting at 3. We move to the probabilities. There's not as many as there were for something like Gimu, but it's still important to pay attention to the restand event and Dead Man's Game. So first for the restand event, which most Zoros are going to be running at 4 of, you can't really mostly prevent this, but it's just good to have a general idea of how much you can expect to have to deal with in one game, kind of what's a reasonable range. So without any searchers, so 5 starting, 5 from draw, maybe 3 from life. He's got about like a 1/3 chance to see none, 43% to see 1, and 22% to see 2. So that's solid amounts to get 0 or 1. But you can generally assume that he'll probably see at least 18, in which the chance for getting 2 or more goes to above 50% or just about 50%. And once you reach 23, you have to assume he has at least one, but most likely 2 or more. For Deadman's Game, it's actually interesting because a lot of people don't run more than 2 Deadman's Games. So the chances of them finding more than one is quite low. Quite low is overdoing it a bit, as we can see here. Even for the 13 draw, there's a 30% chance he finds 2, but there is also a 50% chance he doesn't find any at all. And for 18, that's down to 40, and for 23, that's down to 6%. So yeah, just so you know that as long as he only gets one searcher, you probably only have to deal with 1 to 2 restand events and 0 to 1 Deadman's games. If your opponent plays 1 Deadman's game, you can feel somewhat comfortable that he might not even have another. We get to the problem cards. So, we have just right away Deadman's Game, Brutal. For 4 he can remove 2 blockers, so being able to do basically 2 damage depending on the situation for 4 Dawn and 1 card is absolutely disgusting. It should not be in the game, but alas it is. It can also deny Vortex. If you have 2 Dawn open, he only needs to rest 1 to stop it. So if you want to guarantee a Vortex going through, you need to leave 4 Dawn open. If you're just trying to bait a Deadman's Game, you can leave 3 open even if you don't have a Vortex ready. It's just gonna be kind of the main problem card along with the resend event, and just causes us so many problems. Yeah, it's also annoying because he can go beyond just ignoring whatever he rests, but instead if he has nothing to attack before, he can rest something, kill 1 and swing again. So it works as both removal and as a way to ignore blockers, so extra annoying. Then he has the restand event, gives him a free attack, which is scary when it's like a 9000 attack or something, and extra annoying when he can already get a second swing if we try to block it. So, you know, if he swings face with 9000 or something, or 8000, and we say, okay, we won't block, we'll just let this one go through, it's fine. We don't need to block. And then he just restands and swings face again. Like, there's only so many swings face you can let through, so just really obnoxious. This also avoids the character attack restriction. If he restands himself with his leader ability, he cannot attack characters that have a cost of 7 or more, of above 7. So if you block out of or counter out of a swing onto one of your characters, thinking, okay, now I'm safe, if he restands with the event first, he can swing into it again. So you need to be careful of that. Queen has another problem. There's no real way to avoid it. It can rest a Burgess, the small blockers, or also a Shiryu. And it just kills them very effectively because due to his leader ability he doesn't lose anything for killing it first. Paying 4 and then attaching 3 means that this is a 1 Dawn rest of 4 cost, which is, questionable considering it also eats a swing. Really insane card. You just have to accept that at some point some of your Burgess or blocker or something is going to die to this, and you just have to hope that they don't have more than 1 or 2. Tachigi and Cavendish are both annoying just as bodies. They're both solid bodies, with Cavendish of course generating Dawn, which is extra scary on Zoro, and we don't really have any removal for them in our deck. The only way to remove them is by swinging into them, and the best way to do that is with Burgess. So 8k swings are already very good at killing the Cavendish, and 9k swings also start to deal with the Tashigi. If you're at a weaker point, just go face, and You might have to ignore them for a bit. They do give you targets that you can actually block against, since you can't really block against the leader. The Restand Zoro is a new addition. It's just really obnoxious. It would be pretty easy to deal with our previous deck list, because it's a 4 cost and so we can effortlessly KO it. But with our current list, we don't have a way to do that, so it just restanding itself means it's almost invincible. The only way we can really get rid of it is with the 4 cost blocker Shiryu, who can KO it during his turn, unless he plays a Koshiro. He has the time. He sees that we have it on board. He has the time to play the Koshiro if he wants to. But if he doesn't, then we can kill it. And even if he does have it, we do get rid of the Koshiro at least. He's also just kind of here on the list. He protects everything else. From swings as well, if you have something, if you decide to swing big and then Koshiro just last moment swings in to protect. At some point you're going to have to accept that something that you wanted to kill is not going to get killed because of that Koshiro. We move on to searching. So, early on, as normal, we're looking for our searchers. Stage, my age, Lafitte. Starting hand, stage is always best, but if we're going first, then Lafitte is better, especially if we can get a second one. We do want at least 1 or 2 early Burgesses just to have something to grab with our Kuzans and just to have a way to establish a board and swing into his bodies. Especially if we're going second on 4, there's often not a lot better than Burgess, but the problem is that specifically against Zoro, he does fall to the Quina combo, but at some point something will fall to it. If you can bait it out first with a Shiryu or something, that can be better. But you might just have to accept the loss since you can bring it back with Kuzan later. The blocker Shiryu is great. It also helps us against the Zoro and the Devon just to have her in the trash and be able to grab her out with a 5-cost Kuzan or something. She's good as a blocker that can't be rested by Quina, but also just as a late game threat. Everything you play, all the important cards you're going for here, the Burgess, the Shiryu, the Devon, are all Kuzan targets, so you always want to play them with Kuzan because those extra cards are so important when you're up against a matchup where every last bit of counter counts. The 1-cost blockers, so VV, Karibu, but also Warkiri, you cannot search them, but you can keep them, and you should. The 1-cost blockers especially are really nice to weave in, because while the first blocker against Zoro is useless, the second is not, and of course even the first one does its job if you get to Black Vortex later, or if you're blocking against bodies like the Tashiki. The Warkiri also finds a really comfortable spot here. Shiryu often can't really KO anything, but Warkiri just draws a card consistently, so just really nice. Later on, our focus switches. We're looking for Black Vortex mostly. It's the main win condition in this matchup. It's what makes it winnable, otherwise we would be doomed. But early, we don't really want it yet. We don't have the Dawn to play it. We're going to run into more later. So early on, we just kind of ignore it. But later on, that's when we really need to find 1 or 2. The 5 and 6 cost Kuzan are important later. Just the 5 cost, again as before, draws and plays whatever we want. And the 6 cost works nicely as a blocker that sets up a Burgess or Devon for the counter attack. Yeah, if you don't have a blocker yet to grab with Kuzan, with the 5-cost Kuzan, then you should grab preferably a Devon just to have that ready. And sometimes, if you're going for game and your opponent has the 6-cost Law blocker on the board, it can be worth it to grab the Black Hole to negate him and go for game. But that's relatively niche, but it does happen. Continuing on to trashing. So, early on, 10 costs. They're bricks, they're pointless, get rid of them. Any duplicates you may have that are not searchers, obviously, get rid of them. You won't be able to play them. The Devon, Shiryu, and Burgess are all nice cards, but we want to play them with using the Kuzan. So if we have a Kuzan, or will predictably have a Kuzan because we have searchers and stage, yada yada, then you can trash those then already as well. Duplicates of Vortex. So while Vortex is our win condition, and we definitely need at least one later on in the game, early on there's still breaks, especially more than one. So an easy pitfall is to just hold on to vortexes too early and just have a bad hand. So if you have more than one vortex and you have at least another one in your deck, trash one vortex, it's fine. Later on, you just want to get rid of everything that's not keeping you alive, and that will be any bricks that are not the Kuzan, because the Kuzan turns into a different card and a blocker, and anything that's not Vortex or counter. So you wanna collect the vortexes and whatever counter you can to assist it, because while the big Zoro swings are often hard to counter, the smaller characters like the 4-cost Zoro, the 5-cost Cavendish have very counterable numbers, and so you may be able to get out of those with a 1k, with a 2k, or even just combining Vortex with counters to get out of a big Zoro swing. So, how to win? Let's go into the general game plan. So, there's some things that are going to be the case in games where you win. So first, getting your searchers in early, kind of always nice and helpful, but again here as well. The 1-cost blockers are nice because even though early on you can't really block one hit, later on 2 blockers works, and it also works against his character swings, and it also works against his leader once you use Vortex later in the game. And it can also protect your Burgesses or so when he does try to rest it with Queena and swing big into it. So for example, if you have a Burgess and he plays Queena and rests it and then swings 8 into it, it's probably dead, maybe not. But if you have the Caribou, he can't rest both of them, and so the Burgess lives. Because after blocking the Caribou swing, after blocking his swing with the Caribou, he cannot attack characters again. Anything you can play with Kuzan, play with Kuzan. You get the free card. It's very important in a defensive matchup like this. He has the events we mentioned before, Deadman's Game and the Restand event, and they are his main win conditions. But as we saw in the probability section, he doesn't have an unlimited amount of them. He's running maybe 2 Deadman's Games, he's running 4 Restand events, but he won't see all of them. He doesn't have tons of card draw or tons of searchers. He does have some, and we can't prevent the activate main one. But later on, that is expensive for him. So if you can get him to use one of those events, especially Deadman's Game, without completely losing your board or life, it can be a win for you, just because it's going to be a lot easier in the future to calculate and deal with his threats. When he swings face big with his 8k swings, 9k swings, 11k swings, take the hits. Especially when he restands and does it again, it's scary and it's tempting to counter out if you can barely manage to do so, but it's not worth it. Unless you're already at 2 life, you generally want to take those hits, take the cards, and use it to protect your board, and use it to counter out of smaller swings that might come in the future due to characters like the Zoro or the Cavendish. Just more effective, and later on, using Vortex and blockers, you will be able to defend effectively. We don't have removal effects, so we need to remove his board with swings, which we can once the Burgesses are big enough. An 8k Burgess swings pretty hard into Cavendish, and so we can kind of get rid of his counter pretty effectively. I should note that if we already got some swings face in, so you know, a leader swing, maybe we played a Kuzan and he didn't have too many rested one costs to block for us to swing into, and he took those hits, then it can be more effective to just swing face because it's harder for him to defend and he's gonna, you know, be dead relatively soon anyways. Uh, you kind of can, you know, take those small steps towards his death. Some defend very aggressively and some not. But you kind of want to edge towards it, get him to 4, get him to 3, and then you want to finish kind of very big in one turn from 2, 3 life by using Devon to a large degree. She's a just amazing component of a sudden closing of the game. You can get the double attack through basically every time because he almost never has blockers, or more than one at least. And that double attack swing followed by some Burgess swings will generally end the game. And that's how you're going to be suddenly swinging the direction of the game. You seem like you're almost dead, but you have a bit of a board advantage. You survive the next turn. You brought out a Devon using the 6-cost Kuzan, and suddenly there's a 13,000k swing face and 2 Burgesses, and your opponent is just dead. Simultaneously, games where you lose also have some factors in common, so I want to go through those as well. First, if Zoro starts to build up a board that matches or is better than yours, you are very screwed. Because the general dynamic here is that you build up a board as he takes you down, takes down your resources and takes down your life. If he manages to build a board matching yours, then you just don't have an advantage anymore. He gets too many swings, he gets too much value, and you just don't have enough time in counter. So you need to be getting rid of them kind of as they come down, as they get rested. If you go down to 2 life too quickly, it also becomes rough, because then those big turns he has, even with a vortex, it just becomes lethal way too quickly. He can rest too many things with Dead Man's Game. We need to leave Dawn open for vortex, but we also need to play things, and it's we want to be at 3 kind of a lot of the time, because there's going to be 1 or 2 big hits at the start that we just can't counter out of, but maybe a 5k swing we can, a character swing that we can, and then we tend to stay at a reasonable range. If your Burgesses stay weak, or you only get, say, 1, 2 is usually fine, but 1 is problematic, then you don't have the removal for his board, and you don't have the threat for lethal, and he has too much time to kill you. So if you don't find my ages, you don't find stage, that just becomes very problematic, and you just run out of steam before he can kill you. You need blockers for this. While technically he can ignore 1 at a time, Vortex fixes that, and you having blockers on the board slows down and makes his lethal calculations much more difficult, on top of fully stopping his attacking characters. So you need at least some, especially the 6-cost Kuzan, to translate into life and tempo. If he has too many Deadman's games and restun events, you may also just be screwed. It gets a point of brain dead Zoro gameplay where he can just never play a single character on board and just swing face 9, 11, 8, 8, 8, 8. Just completely ridiculous. Maybe you can salvage it with multiple vortexes if you have tempo, but it's gonna be rough. Unless you have a really clean setup and vortexes, that's going to be tough to defend against, but it is unlikely. If you play your Burgesses early, like on 4 Dawn, and they get rested with something like Quina and swung into and killed, or maybe you just swing into them and they get swung into big by a leader. If you don't have Burgess replacements, you don't have a Kuzan, etc., then you just will, kind of similarly to the point before, be lacking the board control and threat, and you will run out of steam as well. Now we get into the curves, starting with odd curve. So on 1, Lafitte is best, just in setup for the 3 Dawn turn, And then of course stage my age. Blocker is always nice here. Even the Vivi, if she's not a blocker yet, just get her out there. On 3, Lafitte is the best play if you already had another Lafitte on board, because then you have 2 Lafittes on board and potentially he can't actually clear everything. So even if he on his 4 Don turn doesn't play a character and instead just attaches 3 Don to swing with his leader, he won't actually be able to kill everything, even if he does still get a swing face. You're left with another Lafitte and get a free card and something he needs to swing into later. It's lovely. Now, if you can't do that, just the other searchers are also good. Blockers. The 3-cost Shiryu is a possibility. He's not as bad here as he is in like Ace or something, because he can swing naturally into some of the low-cost things like the Quina. And his 5k swings actually can be nice against the leader. Having those kind of smaller swings can be nice because Zoro can get a lot of characters rested on the board. Mostly the Quina and the Searcher. And if he has multiple of those, you may not have enough. You may not have enough to kill all of them with just your leader swing. So having something like the 5-cost Kuzan, having something like the Shiryu helps with that. And if nothing else, then you just swing. On 5, we want to play Kuzan. We want to leave it on board because that extra free swing is nice, and we don't want to put our Burgess as a vulnerable, option right away, and his big swing isn't required instantly, so we just leave it as the 5-cost Kuzan. If we can't do that, play a blocker. If not that, play Burgess. In this case, we prioritize blocker over Burgess because we don't want Burgess to get killed by Quina plus leader swing. And if none of that works and we just don't really have anything of those to play, that means we are in a very bad spot, but we'll just try to play 1-costs and maybe swing into something. On 7, 6-cost and any 1-cost, whether it's a searcher or a blocker, is fine. If we can't get the 6-cost out, doing the same thing with the 5-cost Kuzan also works. And then if we don't have access to either of the Kuzans, then a 4-cost Burgess or blocker also works in combination with 1-costs and swinging. At 7, you might actually have solid targets to swing into, like, I don't know, a Cavendish that attacked. Actually, no, that's not possible, but you can have things that may deserve a bigger swing. On 9, 4-cost is a smooth combo. Use the 5-cost Kuzan to play either a Burgess or a blocker, and then use the 4-cost to play a Burgess or a blocker. Kind of go for a balance there, something for board, something for defense. If you go 2 Burgesses, you may be a bit too exposed, and if you go 2 blockers, you kind of lack the threat. The 6-cost Kuzan is the next best option. Combine it with some 1-costs. You can also combine it with only 1-cost and leave 2 Don open for Vortex. At 9 Don, you're at a point where Vortex may actually be worth using. It can potentially protect something like a Burgess and shut down a bigger turn, and also just work as a threat to the Zoro, because he knows that you may have Vortex. He may even know that you have Vortex if you searched it, and in that case he may use Dead Man's Game on it, and in this case you won't die to that yet, it's too early, and so you may just be glad to be rid of it, and your Vortex remains in hand. Once you get to 10, kind of like the clean play most of the time will be 6-cost Kuzan into 4 Don open for Vortex. This lets you both set up a blocker with the 6-cost Kuzan, then grab a Burgess with it once it dies, or a 5-cost Kuzan or a Devon. And with 4 Don open for Vortex, he can't rest more than 2 of it for Deadman's Game, and you can basically guarantee defense unless he has also a solid board. If you don't have the Vortex, or you don't want to you don't have enough control over the board, you can play a 4-cost instead of the Vortex. Dropping another Burgess with it is a powerful move. If If you don't have the 6 cost, just Burgess and any other blockers are also fine, especially if you're able to add some 1 costs. And then if that's not, then blocker and swinging and having 2 open or more for Vortex can also be fine. At the very end of the chain, 10 cost Teach is playable sometimes, but it's rarely good. He doesn't have big things we would want to stun unless for some reason he's running the 9 cost Zoro as a tech option. Um, and it doesn't leave us any dawn open for Vortex. It can be okay, but the thing is just one dead man's game and it's gone. So a point where we're able to play, a 10 cost is also a point where we're probably already pretty low, and the 10 cost will do little once it just gets rested, and it also can get swung into multiple times because it costs more than 7. So it's a risky play. There are times for it, but it's unlikely. In general, just you want to keep somewhere between 2 and 4 don't open for Black Vortex if you have the board control to do it. So if you already have an established board, then you don't need to use every last bit of Dawn to play new Burgess, and you can use that extra bit to either threaten or actually play a Vortex, which will protect your board and protect your life. We move to the even curve. So similarly to the odd curve and any curve ever, searchers are a good way to start, and dropping blockers off. Lafitte isn't better than stage anymore because we don't get to do the nice combo. On 4, blocker, like a 4-cost blocker like War Carry is good. Next up, searchers and 1-costs are still, if you can play multiple, like multiple feats or something, it's still nice and gives him something to deal with. And then Burgess. Burgess is of course stronger by himself than a blocker, but because he's very vulnerable to getting arrested and killed by the Queen leader combo, it can be better to use a different 4-cost to kind of bait out the Queen first. On 6, 5-cost Kuzan and 1-cost is nice, whether it's searchers or a blocker. Just the raw 6-cost Kuzan is a bit worse, just because by himself he can feel a bit raw, I suppose. And that's still better than just 4-cost and 1-cost. It's just kind of like a worse version of the Kuzan because we don't get the draw. And if none of those are available and he has the 4-cost Zoro, it can be worth it to play Black Hole. There's no really good way to get rid of it aside from the Shiryu, which he may be able to prevent using Koshiro. And so just to prevent the 3-4 swings that this guy is going to bring in, just Black Holing it once can be worth it. On 8, 6-cost Kuzan and 1-cost is the way to go. 6-cost Kuzan and 2 Dawn for Vortex is also fine. Just works quite nicely. If he wants to use DMG to prevent your Vortex, that's not bad either. We got rid of 1. Similar to before, you can do the exact same thing just with the 5-cost Kuzan and it'll be a bit worse, but fine. And on 8 you can also do 2 4-costs and it'll still be solid like War Curie and Burgess. It doesn't have quite the impact, and it does use 2 cards, but it's still nice. On 10, our best player here, as we saw before, remains playing the 6-cost and 4 Dawn open for Vortex. Or if you don't really have board, then the 6-cost plus a 4-cost, like Burgess or a blocker. And alternatively, you can play Burgess and blockers, whatever blockers you may think of, whether it's War Curie or a 5-cost Kuzan into a Devon or something. You can also play a blocker of some sort, swing, and just keep Dawn open for Vortex. Just Burgess without any blockers is kind of scary at this point. He has boards, he has restands. Usually at least one of your blockers dies, and not playing any blockers is just quite risky. So generally if you play one thing, you're going to want to play a blocker. That's why Kuzan is nice, because he's just both. And if you have nothing else, or if the time is just right, maybe you can play the 10 cost Teach. But usually he's too slow and too easily countered by Deadman's Game. Easy mistakes. There are quite a lot to make because Zoro is a scary matchup. And so it's easy to think that you're doomed or it's easy to miscalculate. First of all, Vortex is our win condition, but holding on to too many, basically any more than one early on, is a mistake. They are bricks, you don't have the Dawn to play them, you don't really need or can't use them. You will find more later, so early on, if you have more than one, just trash it. If you don't have any yet and you see one in like your first search, just put it under the deck. You'll see more. This is why we run 3, or at the very least 2. You're gonna see them again. Next up, playing Burgess right away and then you just get rested by Queen and killed. Sometimes it's inevitable, but generally you want to see if you can bait it out with other things and maybe wait until Burgess is at least at 8k, so he's not as much of a free kill anymore for Zoro, and he needs to actually think how much Dawn he wants to attach onto this to actually guarantee the Burgess dying. Later on, you may, he doesn't have a way to KO the Kuzan or anything, and he is out of range of the Quina, but he's not out of range of Deadman's Game. So later on, when Zoro has enough Dawn, like 7 or more, he may very well decide to play Deadman's Game, rest the 5-cost Kuzan, rest a blocker, and just swing 8 into the Kuzan. It's not a direct threat on your life, although he will swing life, but he gets rid of your character, which would later probably be a Burgess, and he prevents you from drawing a card, and he prevents the free swing. So it's often worth it for Zoro, and you need to be aware that this is something he may consider. If you're just playing Kuzan, like at 5, at 6 it's not really that much of a threat because he could swing 7 into it, but he can't restand, so you would probably just counter out of it and you'd be rid of a Deadman's Game, and he didn't develop anything. So you don't need to be over terrified of it, but it is something you should keep in mind. Next up, this is just a classic mistake. Just, you have something you can KO with Shiryu, for example, the forecast, and you forget the Koshiro is on the board, and you just select the Zoro, and he rests his Koshiro, and you didn't fully waste your KO, but it's just inefficient. So just remember, focus the Koshiro first. You don't have a choice. Playing Teach is tempting, especially when you're at 10 and he has like one thing to stun, but it's usually a mistake. Don't do it. Be very sure before you play Teach. Make sure that you're in a very comfortable situation, and if you are, then there's probably still better things you can do. Blocking leader swings is pointless unless you swing twice, and if you do block twice, now you use 2 blockers to prevent 1 swing. Not really very efficient. Most of the time, just let the swings go through, even if he uses the restand event. I know it's scary seeing all those big swings come your life, and the question, do you not want to block? Let it go. Later on, you'll be able to block when you're playing Vortex, when his characters are swinging. Yeah, basically. Blocking the leader swings is one way that you lose control of the board and thus the game. Early on, big swings, just take them again. Also don't counter, don't block. Those first 2 8k swings that put you to 3 life, it's fine. Just accept it. You're gonna have a much easier time defending the later ones and defending the character swings. In a similar but different vein, letting your board die to swings. He cannot re-attack your board with his leader ability, only with the restand event. And so, because you're scared of protecting your life, if he swings onto your board, onto your Burgess, you may feel inclined to just let it die because, you've got your life to protect. Don't. Most of the time, it's worth it to defend your board, especially your Burgess. He won't be able to swing into it again. The Burgess gets bigger as you counter to defend for it, as you block to die for it. keep your board alive, and it will keep you alive later on and kill him, more importantly. It's also easy to forget if you do have your 10 cost teach out, it does happen. It's easy to forget that if you block with him, the Zoro can restand and swing into the same teach again, because it does have a cost of 8 or more. So don't forget that your teach may die anyways, and so the way you then want to play it is to have him swing into something you don't block, he restands, swings into face, and then you can block. And maybe, if he's swinging 12,000 or something, then counter out of it then. And then also just miscalculating the combinations of resting and restanding he has. That is a lot of the game, and a lot of the matchup is both you and the Zoro in your head going through how many times can he swing how big, and how can you block, counter, black vortex your way out of it. And if you mess that up, it can be very easy to die. If you forget that Deadman's Game only needs to rest one of your Dawn, if you have two open, and rests also a blocker. Or just forgetting that, what if he has two restand events or something? Or what if he just swings 15,000 face or something, whatever. You need to be going through those. It becomes easier as you play against more Zoros and you've done each of those kind of considerations multiple times. But it's just something you're going to need to be paying attention to in every matchup, especially towards the end. Lastly, trying to defend when you should probably go for game and vice versa. So sometimes you survive a turn and you're just kind of looking, okay, I'm almost dead. He has a board. I could play the 6 cost Kuzan. Maybe I could play Vortex. I could play 10 cost Teach. What am I doing here? But there are times when you're just doomed and your only way to win is to win. And then you need to go that. And in the other direction, you may just kind of tunnel in on having your Burgess, on having your Devon, and trying to go for game, when in reality there's no need to, and you are safe, and you can go for board and kill him next turn. So more calculating to do, more considering of possibilities, but it is what will increase your win rate against Zoro by that extra few percent. Next up, some more general tips, not as focused on mistakes. First of all, leave the Kuzan on board. He has a lot of cheap targets to swing into, and you don't want to rest your Burgess right away, so just leave the Kuzan up. He can't get rested by anything except Deadman's Game, which will generally not be worth it for Zoro early on. Block the character swings. You can't block the leader swings, or at least very inefficiently, so block the character swings. Unless you have Vortex, then later on you can also do that, but in general, that's the way to go. Third, count your vortexes. You should probably have one in hand, but also in mind how many you've already seen, and if, the ones that you haven't seen, how close are they probably to the top of the deck, or maybe have I gone through my entire deck and I know there's one in my life, for example. Vortex is core in this matchup, and whether or not you have Vortex is insane. The most big brain way to win against Zoro would be to leave 2 Dawn open, knowing that you're going to get a Vortex from life. So those are the type of things you need to pay attention to with the Vortex. Yeah, I mentioned this with the mistakes. Starting at 10 Dawn, you're going to want to be comparing the different approaches. I'm actually just going to go through a couple here to give you an example. So first, he attaches 10 and just swings twice face to get over a blocker and prevent a counter. 2, he attaches 7 and restands once. Or 6 attached and he plays Deadman's Game to rest a blocker and a Vortex or something, or 2 blockers. Or for the full cheesy combo, he attaches 3, rests 2 things with DMG and also restands for a very disgusting combo, but that is, for example, something where, because he only has 3 Dawn attached, if you can Vortex, he goes down to 4,000 attack, and now none of his attacks do anything. There's also the option of doing something like 6 attached, using Queen to rest something and restand, because the Queen restands something for basically 1 done. So, scary. Next up, um, yeah, just if one likely kills you without Vortex, just keep the Dawn up, whether you have the Vortex or not. And if there is basically a version where you know that if he has Deadman's Game, I'm dead, no matter how I play with Vortex or not, then just play as if he doesn't. There's no point dying in the least sad way. Just play as if he doesn't and go for your most likely chance of victory. 1 or 2 Vortexes is generally enough. You don't need all 3. You don't need 4 if for some reason you're running 4. A lot of the games, most of the games, you will only play 1 Vortex. Just the fact that it is ready for those later turns is what matters, and that 1 turn where it basically shuts down his aggression can absolutely be enough. You can leave 2 to 3 done open to bait a Deadman's Game. So if you leave 4 open, you may be able to, bluff that you have a Vortex, and he may try to play around it a bit, but he will notice as soon as he swings that you don't have it. But if you leave 2 to 3 done open, he could actually rest them with Deadman's Game, and then it would generally be worth it if you did have the Vortex in hand, especially if you only have 2 done open and he only needs to rest 1 of them. So it can be a very efficient way to bait out and get rid of the Deadman's Game for free, especially if you leave 3 open just to perfectly protect your blockers and work out nicely. Devon is a great finisher, just very nice. You can keep her on board as a blocker. Maybe get a free block in against something like the 4-cost Zoro, or just to Vortex and then block with her without her dying. And then against Zoro, that basically might take a hit or 2 early on, but will still have the lead on you because you've spent most of your time trying to, grasp for the board. Devon can very quickly turn that around and suddenly get him from 3 life to 0. And so she is something important to keep in mind and something you definitely want to have in your trash to have available for the Kuzans. And lastly, if you can counter a swing with 1 card, generally do early on, like a 5k swing or something, and then later on, where everything is about that 1 extra swing, then if you can counter out of a swing, do. So if you can just barely counter out of an 8k swing, just do it instead of blocking. Of course, if you would be dead otherwise, then do. But even if you wouldn't, even if alternatively you could block, it's generally better to just counter out of it, keep your blocker / lives alive, and then you can focus on, well, the extra stuff. That does only apply if he doesn't have characters. If he has more cheaper characters, like the Zoro or, a Tashigi maybe, then those extra counters will probably be more efficiently used on a 7k swing than a 9k swing. So for the video clip I'll show you, I just picked an example of a pretty smooth victory. It shows the Zoro contesting for board and also trying to use his events to kill me, but we get a pretty clean execution. You kind of get to see how, for one, you build a board, take a bit early and defend yourself later, and also how you go through a lot of the calculations so that you're ready for whatever your opponent will throw at you. So, enjoy. Zoro this time. We have stage, so we're gonna keep it. He gets to go first, which is very unfortunate. OP9 Zoro is more difficult. The 6-cost Law isn't a problem for us, and neither is the 10-cost Shanks if he does run him. But the problem is that the 3-cost Mihawk isn't new. But do I play? I can't really play Burgess in case he gets rested by Queena. The new forecast, or the one new forecast, and the other forecast they're now playing, enables him to play the 3-cost Mihawk. And if I don't turn off on plays, then on 3 or 4-3 Dawn, he can play Mihawk into a Zoro into a Koshiro. And all he really needs for that to really screw me over is to have the Mihawk in one of the Zoros. The Koshiro is optional. He could also be another Searcher or just a bigger swing. Do I rest the Lafitte? Or do I maybe just swing into it and play Forecast? It's an interesting idea. Just swing with the Lafitte. It translates to both of us losing a card. Although I don't lose a Dawn for it. Can I play the Burgess? Not safely. Not yet. I'm gonna wait for my age, and for now, just play the Warcurie. Suppose I don't need to play the Burgess. I will activate Lafitte and my age and Burgess. Or do I just do Lafitte and Kuzan? I think I do Lafitte and Kuzan, so I can actually drop the Burgess. I take another my age. Lafitte is tempting, but the plan is just gonna be to get the Burgess 8k and above as quickly as possible, so that Zoro can't free kill him. And then of course to find a second Burgess, but considering we have even just next turn, we're gonna go through 1, 2, 7, 10, 13 cards. We're gonna make it. He hasn't decided yet. On 5, something like a Cavendish is possible. The forecast Queena isn't really that scary. If he wants to rest the Warcurie and kill it, sure, he's rid of it, but I get a card. It's not as painful for me. What would suck for me? There's nothing I'm super scared of. I think he's just gonna play 5. Oh, okay, that is good for me. Probably a Koshiro added here. Yeah, annoying, but fine. We do the Lafitte search. We grab. Shuri is actually not bad. Maybe I can eventually get rid of that. He can't rest 5 costs, so Kuzan is safe. I think we'll still trash the Shiryu. And if I really want to grab... if I don't have a Kuzan to play next turn, I will find a Kuzan with all these searchers. I can drop the Shiryu. And I don't want to play double forecast next turn because I really want to find time to squeeze in these my ages. Because the Burgesses are actually gonna start happening. Okay, almost whiffed that. Do I swing with Warcurie? I mean, he's gonna double swing anyways. This way I keep the Lafitte alive. He could swing with Koshiro, but it's not really worth it. The Warcurie is gonna be a blocker soon enough. I think I'm gonna go for it. This is arguably a mistake. In the previous version, he would kill this Lafitte and then swing face. In this version, he can kill the Warcurie and then go face. We're gonna. Alright, it's the Zoro matchup. I'm gonna keep one Vortex. Is it too early to keep the Vortex? I have so many searchers, I'll find another one. Thing is, you rarely need more than one, and now that we're running 3, trashing one early on is not really a problem. Unless they're both in my life, or one is in my life and one at the very bottom, but that seems unlikely. We had stage from turn 1, so that's 9 searches from this, 14 if we add Lafitte, plus the cards we've drawn. One moment. Was gone there for a moment. Oh, he goes for the Lafitte. Alright, well in that case, of course, it might be the right play for him to go for the Lafitte, but it does mean that my play was correct. And I get the Workery. Arguably, maybe I should have countered out of that, but 2k, This Zoro is very annoying. Maybe I don't go for the Burgess from this. Maybe I just go for the Shiryu. Let's see what our lovely searchers find us. One Spiral and a Kuzan. Then we go face a couple times. I really would like this Zoro to die. While Koshiro is up, I can't swiftly kill him with the Zoro. $8k Burgess or... How do I get rid of this stupid Zoro? We leave the blocker up this time. I don't think the teach will be worth it. Kuzan probably doesn't work. I think the play here next turn is to play Burgess, Black Hole, the Zoro, now that he can be KO'd, and then leave Tudon open for Vortex. Tudon is technically risky since a dead man's game can screw us over pretty quickly, but I do feel that if he had dead man's game, then he would just use it now to rest our blockers, and I guess he could get us to 0 life. Well, we have 3 blockers, so never mind. The War Courier will get some value at some point. Okay, so we just let the 8k swing go through, and then we block the Zoro swing. With Shiryu. Just be done with it. This gets up, we swing into Hyori. Stage cycle, Kuzan. Okay. So I'll do exactly what I planned. Swing into this. Black hole this. Do this. Leave Tudon up. Do I trash a black hole for if he plays more things in a setup turn? If not, I'll trash it next turn. And I have the Vortex to shut down big plays. So his strongest play is to deadman one of my Dons and rest Kuzan, then attach a bunch of Don. If he only attaches 8, then I'll counter out of 1 and let the other one go through. If he swings big, well, I think I just Vortex and block with I Vortex and block with Kuzan. Can I grab another Burgess? Yes, I can. I think with a Kuzan I can get the tempo. Do I grab Burgess? Or do I grab a 5 cost to grab another blocker? I think I have enough big swings. I'm gonna block here. Vortex. Boom. Kuzan. I'm baiting him to use a restand event. Okay, he won't. In that case, we get our blocker back. With the Kuzan, I mean, we can also grab a Burgess, but I'd rather add another blocker back to the list. Okay, that's a nice draw. I could use stronger Kuzan Black Hole. Get rid of the Tashigi. I don't have another Shiryu, so this would mean I have the Shiryu and the Valkyrie. This is gone. I also sadly lose the stronger as a result. But I think my board state might be advantageous enough in that situation. I suppose in that case I do one way or another drop the Tashigi. So I think I drop the Tashigi now, the Vivi, and hope for a 10 cost. Okay, another Kuzan doesn't really help. I can take the Shiryu and then use this one to bring back. We play 5 face. He has to counter out of this. Then we do 10 face. He's at 3. Getting rid of this Tashigi is just nice. The stronger plays. Good old days. And now the Kuzan trash. Are the 2 blockers enough? I die to Deadman's Game restand event if this is a brick. If I drop another Shiryu, I just kind of lack the threat for lethal, and that's kind of annoying. I suppose one blocker up doesn't help at all. So might as well grab a Burgess. Then we trash our Lafitte, or do we get Kuzan as a blocker? And we trash Lafitte. And we leave it at this. Deadman's restand. I live if I find a 1k in life. Just Deadman's big swing puts us to 0. He could do Deadman's kill the Shiryu and then go face again. Somewhat unintuitive to use Deadman's and then still swing into the same blocker. But hey, okay, he just goes face. I think I just block with Valkyrie here. Draw a card. Do I give up both of my blockers? He 9000, so he can't do Deadman's restand. So I think I just take this and then try to kill him next turn. It's possible. If not, I have to block both of them. Might trigger Vortex. Next turn, Kuzan leave 4 down open with Black Spiral. Then I have 3 blockers and a Vortex. That will be difficult for him to get through. Okay, so he does have the restand event. So I lose both of my blockers here. Unless this is a 2k. Oh, he has another restand event. Okay, I can't counter out. I'm just dead. With 6 open, I could have played around it. With the my age, I could have grabbed the Burgess, and then I would have 1k counter more, and then I could counter out of the 9k swing if he does commit to it. Of course, he doesn't know what I have in my hand. Okay, either he doesn't have it, or he does have it and thought I might kill him if he commits. Well, let's start with this. I suppose this means he thinks he can live the round for sure, and then next round he can guarantee kill me. It might be the right play for him, in which case grabbing Vortex was better. Maybe he saw me drop the Burgess and thought, hey, he probably has enough counter anyways. Okay, so I play Kuzan, leave Vortex open. That's the only real valid play here. I swing 5 life, he has to counter, because if he doesn't, then I just attach and kill him. 9, 11, yeah, wouldn't be worth it. And now we get those 2 swings in here. Takes that, takes that. Are we dead? To dead man's game resting our blockers. Then he comes 11 face. We put him down to 7, 2k, 1k, and we live. A restand event doesn't really make it better for him because, yeah. So we win. That is the summary here. Double dead man's game doesn't work because then he doesn't have enough dawn to get dawn 3 here. Queena works. Wait, does Queena kill me? Okay, that makes it easier. So for basically 1 dawn, he gets rid of this blocker. Then what? Restand event, I guess. So he could go to like... He would have 6 dawn left with 3 attached. So he could do like 888 swing, which I would defend against with Vortex and blocker. And if he does a bigger swing, I still do Vortex, block, and block it. Okay, so I win. Looks like he has come to a decision. He's stronger, so he's trying to survive. Vortex, and I can just counter out, I suppose. Or do I block with the Kuzan since it's free? Is there any punish to that? There's not. The restand event doesn't really help him. What? Oh, I already clicked no blocker. Okay. Well. The double Koshiro. Okay. So I need to get 4 attacks through. I have 5 swings. Black hole would be very useful here. Okay, no black hole. Kuzan can't grab anything right away. So these go through. So these eat the blockers at the end. So I have these 3 swings with which I must do 2 damage. One being countered I can accept, the other not so much. I can do 8, 9, 9. So I do the 8 swing. 2k, 2k. He has 2 cards. I do the 9 swing. It goes through. He grabs a card. And I do another 9 swing. And then, unless he has 2k, 2k, 1k, he wins. The alternative is I do 8k, and then I do another 8k. so that he would have had to have only 4Ks here. So two versions. There's one where he has only 2Ks and this is a brick, in which case it's better if I do the 899. And there's an option where this is a 2K and he has a 1K in hand. How many has he dropped? I think 889 is better. The chance that he only has 4K, 2Ks here in the hand is basically nothing. So we do 8. Okay. Do I take my chances with this? How many 2Ks has he had? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. He must have something in hand though. If he didn't have the events, what would it be? Nah. Definitely 8. If he has one brick, he's dead one way or another, so... do we just do 9? And then 9 again. Okay, GG. Alright. Oh yeah, he had the shanks and another brick, okay. Alright. A nice win. We get to my conclusion. So, Zoro is a scary but a favored matchup for us. Significantly favored. I'm currently at about 60 something% win rate in the sim. Vortex is our main win condition and what allows us to win at all when combined with blockers. But you need to use it in moderation. It's easy to misplay and lose, so you have to be careful and you have to be thinking. All those various routes that he can attack you with, you need to have them in mind. Most of the time, a vortex and blockers will be able to deal with most of them, but you need to be ready whichever way they may come. Then, thanks, like, subscribe, etc., etc., etc. Also, coaching will now be available. So if you like my guides and thought, hey, that extra personal touch would be sure to help, just write me. And thank you.